Scott with the Naughty Gym Show, and we just wanted to give you a little update on where we're at in our solo dates. But first, May 15th, we are kicking off our Summer Lovin' 4-week challenge. Now, with Naughty Gym, we do quarterly challenges to kind of help people stay motivated and give you a little extra accountability to move towards your health and fitness goals. So summer is right around the corner. We have 4 weeks of fitness, nutrition, and sexual wellness challenges that we are going to give you for free. So you go to naughtygym.com, click on the Summer Lovin' Challenge, and you're going to get all your tasks and challenges in an app right on your phone. You'll be able to see the leaderboard to see who's in the lead. And we have some really great prizes that we'll be giving at the end of the 4 weeks. So make sure you go sign up before May 15th. That's just like a week and a half away. So let's do it.
And real quickly, we have our big event in January of 2024. It's a full resort takeover of Hedonism Resort in Jamaica, and it's called Be Better at Being Bad Week, and it's a sexual health and wellness summit. And we're bringing experts from, I know now we got experts from 3 continents all over America, and they're going to be talking about every kind of topic imaginable: health, fitness, yoga, mindset, meditation, sexual hormones, psychedelics, all this stuff to help make you be better at being bad.
Yeah. A summit doesn't sound fun. This is going to be a week-long party, all right? Yeah. You're going to party and you're going to leave better than you were when you got there, in a good way. That's January 6th through the 13th. Registration is live. You can go to naughtygym.com, Be Better at Being Bad, or Hedonism Week, or just go to the Hedo website and click on January 6th through the 13th, and you'll book our week.
So now on to our update of how our separate dating experiment is going.
Okay, Scott, so how's it been going?
Good. We had said our next video was going to be the day after our completed separate dates, that we're going to try to make those dates happen on the same day. Next day, we're going to film without talking to each other about how the dates went and get it live on camera, our reactions to those separate dates. However, we felt like another update video is probably in order, because since we launched or put our
last episode up,
and we put our profiles on a couple of dating websites, there's been some fun and sort of mild chaos that has ensued that we thought could be entertaining and maybe helpful.
Yeah, not chaos, but there's been a few rule changes. So we quickly realized that we set up our Cassidy account, and we quickly realized that it was much more difficult for me to find a male who wasn't single that was allowed to play solo.
A male that... Oh, yeah, right.
Right?
Wasn't single,
so there's a lot of hot wives out there. And so you were finding these connections with some of the girls, women. And I was just kind of like, there's nobody for me.
Well, there were,
Right? And so we had the conversation. I'm like, I may have to potentially look at some single men, because a lot of men they get turned on by the thought of their wife being with another man, but it's not necessarily, there's not a lot of hot husbands.
Yeah, there's some, but
there's
not
some.
As much,
and so we went ahead and said we would open it up for single males.
Correct.
Right. For the right single male. And to do that, we joined another app called...
Which I suggested at first, but you vetoed.
I did.
I don't know why that matters.
Yeah, because you were right.
That's right. That's why that matters.
Yeah, so we went to another dating app that's more conducive to finding some couples, and singles are both on there. People that are in ethical, non-monogamous relationships.
And different sexual...
Yeah, some
variety.
are looking for like a third to bring into their relationship. Some are looking for couples. Some are looking for singles. So it was a little more conducive, though, to what we were looking for. But we also, that meant at first that we thought there was only then the ability to do solo chats, too.
Well, let's set the picture here of what we actually expected to happen from the outset. Now, on this second dating app, happened exactly the way I was afraid it would happen. We actually launched, I don't know if launch is the right word, but we started those accounts at noon this past Saturday. By 3 p.m., 3 hours later, she was in extended conversations with 11 different guys, and she's just in bed, just bouncing from message to
I was
message.
just weeding them out, pulling the weeds.
And I had, at that 3 hour mark, how many messages was I involved in?
0.
0. That's correct.
On that app. But you were in a couple conversations on Cassidy.
Yeah, but not 11.
But some. It wasn't 0.
No, and that pattern continued for 24 hours or so.
Yeah.
She just kept getting new people, new single guys. I think all of them, or at least most of them.
Not all of them, but most of them.
A lot of them were single guys. And she was, maybe to her surprise, having a blast with it.
I was, yeah. I found it a lot more exciting than I anticipated it being. Yeah, I did.
Because typically you're not a big messenger. Well, neither one of us really
that's true.
are.
You have to really get my attention for me to want to text you. But there was something different about the dynamic because typically when we've done like play sessions with other couples, I still am not really involved in that chat. I kind of let you take the lead. So kind of what this meant was I was in the driver's seat and responsible for my journey. And so I have to put myself out there more because otherwise I'm not going to get the experience that I'm looking for.
Well, and that day, so she had 11 messages going by 3. There ended up being more than that. But throughout that day and that weekend, she was bouncing around the house I haven't seen her like this in a long time. So it was a very interesting thing. And I was feeling a little bit of jealousy because here she is in this phenomenal mood and getting all this attention. And I wasn't getting near as much, which we expected. But slowly that began to change for me too.
Right.
But the thing that was great for me was to see you flitting about in this almost state of ecstasy, and like you were like a teenage girl and you were bouncing around the house and telling me all about these conversations, and it was interesting to watch.
Yeah. What's interesting though is our conversations are so different. You know, like, because Scott had said, I don't remember what night it was, but we were talking and he was like, you know, I'm kind of jealous that your conversations you're having so many long conversations. And I'm like, yeah, but it's different because your conversations are going deep. Like you're talking like about your theology and philosophy or what you're going deep. And my conversations were very superficial and just fun and lighthearted. So I was doing a lot of that, but it wasn't going like, we weren't talking about our history and about how we got like our journey and how we got into the lifestyle. I wasn't having those types of conversations because you were talking to guys. Well, no, this goes back to why I wanted to play separately in the first place is because you tend to form a connection, a deeper connection faster because you do want to know genuinely about the other person's journey and why they think the way they do and why they do things the way they do. I don't necessarily need that. I enjoy that with somebody that I want to get close to, but I don't necessarily need that to make a good connection with a sexual partner.
I would say your conversations look more like a 16-year-old boy.
That's probably true.
So they're graphic and not necessarily super deep. But that's what
not always.
Yeah, and that's what you've been enjoying.
Yeah.
And I don't think we expected that level of lighthearted excitement from you. Okay, so we've already broken the no unattached singles.
Yeah.
Because you're talking to a bunch of single guys, and I'm actually
because we agreed.
Right, yeah, right. Well, right, and because it looked like that was going to be necessary. Right. We also broke the all messaging is going to have to be done in group messaging rule.
Right.
Not completely done away with that, but we have broken that a little bit. It's partially because we started getting all these messages on this new app, dating site, and those, because we had set separate accounts up, the messages are coming to our
Right.
separate accounts, and so now we find ourselves in these separate chats.
Yeah. So our accounts are linked, so people can see that who are part. Like they can see that
we're
you're my
connected.
husband, that
Right.
we're connected. But the messaging is done solo. So I can log into your account. You can log into my account. And most of the time we were sitting next to each other, and I'd be like, "Hey, can you answer this for me?"
But they're still separate.
But they are still separate. That's right. Yeah.
And in some way, that started our first or our only little hiccup.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the separate? Well, let me tell it from my perspective, and then I'll ask you. It looked to me like you were okay with separate messaging because you were getting them all at first.
Right.
And then when it started happening to me, which it did eventually, all of a sudden you started getting, you pulling back, maybe you started getting uncomfortable. But that may not be exactly what was happening.
No, so what had happened was, we didn't really know how the app worked. So we thought it was just, you could only do separate chats. And so my thought, and maybe I didn't communicate that to you, was, okay, that's okay for now because we're right here. I can read yours, and we'd hand each other phones, and
Right.
sometimes you would answer for me. Just FYI, guys, sometimes you're chatting with him.
That's because she had too many to handle,
But-
and I was bored with nothing to do
Yeah.
at first.
But my thought was, well, if it starts to look like we're going down the route of dating this person, we'll move to Telegram in a group chat. Because I had done that with one guy already, where we had moved to Telegram and I added you in, and me and him were chatting, and you could pipe in if you wanted to, but you don't really. And then I realized on this app, you could add somebody to the chats. So you
Yeah.
could actually make the group chats on this dating app.
Actually, one of the people we were talking to,
One of
the husband of the girl I was talking to,
right.
ended up putting us all into a group chat
Right.
somehow, I think.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized, oh, wait a minute, we can do this.
Right. So now that I knew it was an option, I thought I had to kind of settle for that. It made me a little uncomfortable. But then I was like, oh, well, now we can make a group chat. Let's make it group chat. But what I didn't say, because you really enjoyed me doing this solo chatting. In fact, you would like dirty talk. Like we would be, in the moment, and you'd be like, tell me what you're going to say.
What do you mean in the moment?
Like me and you having, getting intimate.
Why are you having trouble saying that?
And you would say, I want you to text him while we're doing this. And so
Text him while we're having sex.
Right.
Okay.
And
Just
so
to be clear.
and so no, I lost my train of thought. I'm getting flustered.
And so so we were having fun with it, and then there was a little bit of a hiccup because I felt like as soon as we realized there was a group text option, she asked me to move my
Your private
the
chat.
conversation that I had that had progressed the furthest
Right.
towards the possibility of a date. She wanted me to move into a group text, and she did that. But she didn't move any of her conversations into a group text.
Right.
Right,
Because
so-
because
Right. No,
you
hold on.
didn't
I know you're going to say the reason,
Okay.
and you have the right reason. But to me, it just looked like, okay, so you're enjoying having all these private conversations yourself and having fun, but you don't want me to do it.
Right.
And so we had a little dust up, and we had to have a conversation.
Yeah. Because in my perspective, you enjoyed me doing that solo chatting because you had encouraged it. And I felt like I was settling because even though I was a little uncomfortable with you doing the solo chatting, I didn't think I really had an option to have it in a group chat. Once I found that option, I was like, okay, let's move to this conversation that you're having to a group chat so that I feel safe and comfortable with you progressing with her. And when you dug in, it made me feel like not very secure. Like, is there a reason that he's not wanting me now in this group chat? Like, what is going on now? So,
Which it had nothing to do with
and
it.
it didn't.
Yeah.
It just had, you are like, everything has to be even Steven. Like, it didn't feel fair to you.
Right. I don't like feeling like you're being hypocritical.
Right, sure.
And that wasn't really what you were doing, but that in the moment, that's what it felt
Yeah.
like. And so we had to work through it. And like most things that we've ever had any disagreement about in the lifestyle, it really just came to
Me being right.
It just came down to us not fully seeing each other's perspective.
Yeah, that's exactly
because there's almost never,
right.
well, there's really never any malicious intent.
Well, what it came down to was us both having these conversations in our own head, but not verbalizing or vocalizing what we were actually feeling until I vocalized what I was feeling, and you were like, "Well, I've kind of been thinking about this for 2 days now."
Right. Yeah, and I wasn't loving the fact that you were in all of these separate messages. Well, let me take that back. So, and this is coming to another point in a minute, but there was jealousy
Right.
on my part.
Right.
But I don't want to admit that. Right. So I was pushing it down and not saying anything because I was seeing you having so much fun.
Right.
And when I say jealousy, it wasn't overwhelming jealousy. It wasn't that I felt like what was happening was something that shouldn't be happening or this was bad. It's just, it's what happens. You know, you're going to feel jealousy sometimes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an overwhelming jealousy. It was just more like a lot of it probably had to do that I didn't have near as many conversations going.
Right, yeah.
And you were just, it was all you could do to focus on work.
You're
it was
feeling a little FOMO.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's multiple conversations on both sides of the equation, and we're having fun with it right now. We had the one little dust up, but it seems to be going well. And another rule that it's not, I don't know how much of a rule this was, but the agreement was we were going to do one separate date each.
Right.
And we can announce that we have those lined up. We're both going on a date next Friday.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, we're going to on Sunday, the day after the date, we're not going to talk about that date. We're going to get up Sunday morning and do a rehash and see how each other is feeling and how it went. But we have continued messaging people.
Yeah.
And so I even asked this morning, it seems like this is going so well for both of us so far, that do you feel like this is something that there's a high likelihood we will do again? And you resoundingly said yes.
Yeah. I mean, if everything goes well, I don't know how I'm going to feel a week from today, but yeah, I think so. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, me too.
But we've also did something else. So we said we would do one date each. Well, we've been chatting with a friend of ours who's in the lifestyle, and she's a hot wife. She's experienced. She's been a hot wife for several years now. And so we were chatting with her and her husband about some of her rules, some of her what her process is in vetting men and feeling safe and making sure that she feels secure and that her husband feels like she's safe out with this potential stranger. And she said she does a pre-date date where she'll meet at a coffee shop or somewhere real quick. And she said, sometimes I'm just like in, my gym clothes coming straight from the gym, and it's a 15-minute just to meet in person, make sure they're actually who they say they are and look like what they say they look like, what their pictures are.
And that's a display of intent to not ghost on the, this person's serious because they've met me for this sort of pre-date.
Right. But also to make sure that you really do have chemistry in person, because what I wouldn't want to be in a position where I go on a date with a man who has paid for a hotel and now I'm going to dinner with him and then we don't have that connection and I'm like, deuces, I'm out, and now he's out of money. Right. That would make me feel bad. I would still say no if it was a no, but I would still feel bad. So it's a little safety, some guardrails.
And how would you say the date went? And I'll get to my issue in a second.
I think it went well. So we met at a coffee shop for maybe 45 minutes to an hour just to chat. And it was good. He was engaging. We had great conversation like we did in our chat. He was super nervous. I was super nervous. And so, yeah, I think it went well. So our date is still on.
And interestingly, from my perspective, this whole thing popped up yesterday morning as a possibility. And I was like, yeah, go do that. That's fine. How could I possibly have a problem with that when I'm saying you can go on a date that may even involve sex?
Yeah.
In the 7+ years we've been in a lifestyle, and we've done a lot of stuff, easily that was the most difficult thing I have ever done, and I can't explain why. For you were at this thing for, I think it ended up being a little over an hour. You were at this coffee.
It was less than an hour because I had an appointment right after.
Okay, yeah. It wasn't long is the point. And I had those waves of jealousy. My stomach was kind
That
of
made me
turned
feel
up.
really bad when you told me that too. I did.
Oh,
I felt so
and
bad.
it
Like I
was,
needed to do aftercare.
well, yeah, and it wasn't that I felt like you were doing something wrong, or I
Yeah.
wasn't having those feelings thinking, okay, this is probably a sign that something that shouldn't be happening is happening. I need to listen to my body. I recognized that that jealousy was a signal that I probably have some internal work I need to do.
Yeah.
But it was so difficult.
Yeah.
I even started trying to get some buddies I know to go play pickleball with me to keep me distracted. I didn't tell them why, but
Yeah.
and nobody could on that last minute notice. So I go out there and just took all the pickleballs I have and start practicing serve
Right.
by myself.
And you kept looking at the Life 360.
Yeah, try.
to
Is
see-
she left yet? You know what's going on. Very difficult for me. So I'm glad you did that because it's going to help me prep a little bit better.
Yeah.
In
And
the future.
that's one thing that I love about you though, when you are in a situation like that, a hard situation, and in this regard, you're a much stronger person than I am. You are able to do the mental gymnastics that it takes because you're like, I'm feeling this and it's uncomfortable. Why is it uncomfortable? I don't want it to be uncomfortable. Me, when I start feeling uncomfortable feelings like that, I'm going to dig in and I'm like, I am not going to feel this.
Shut this situation
Shut
down.
it down.
Yeah.
What do I have to do to not feel this? And so I do have a lot of respect for you for the way that you handled that because I don't know if I could, if it was reversed, I probably would have been like, well, I'm going with you. I'm not going to sit at home by myself.
Yeah, that would have been great.
I want to meet her too. Even though I wouldn't really want to do a meet her.
Right,
Met
which
her.
is the whole point
Yeah.
we're doing separate dating is you don't really want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was difficult, surprisingly. So, but we got through it, and then you showed back up at the pickleball courts, and I was still out there
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours later, and we had a good night. The next thing that seems to be, well, we touched on this, is we think there's a very good chance we may continue to dabble in solo dating. So anyway, a lot of our rules have fallen by the wayside, or at least have been manipulated or changed a bit.
But that's what happens in the lifestyle, and that's how we expand. That's how our boundaries move. That's how we get comfortable. That's how we get closer, because that's what surprised me the most about the lifestyle is the more we've expanded our boundaries, the closer we've become, and the more transparent we've become, the more we've learned about each other, the more our communication has grown, and that's really what this is about.
Yeah, I think we all have to set rules and boundaries when we're trying something like this, consensual non-monogamy in general, or some specific variation of consensual non-monogamy. And we set those rules, but we do it in good faith, knowing that we're probably wrong in at least some aspect of that rule that we're setting, that it's not going to work out the way
Right.
we think it is, or something's going to change. And with our relationship being on solid footing, we can then pivot when those changes emerge
Right.
and go, okay, well, now let's reevaluate and make our rules and boundaries better.
Right.
Based off what we're feeling right now.
Yeah.
And so we've done that, and we've changed our rules, but we've changed them in a way that's working for us,
Yeah.
at least right now. And again, we've not had a date yet. So,
Yeah.
well, you've had a coffee date. But, we may do these dates in a week from now and go, it's the last time that's ever happened. But,
And that's the beautiful thing. Either one of us at any point can say, I don't want to do this anymore, and we're both okay with that.
yeah, that is the one rule that will never change, is that we have given each other the security of knowing that if you ever decide to pull the plug on anything,
Yeah.
we both pull the plug. And I know that she would do that for me, and I hope she knows that I would do that for her. So we've got a lot of stuff that we're experimenting with now, and we're excited about it. So hopefully our dates go well.
So stay tuned. We'll give you an update next week.